Welcome to the Dream Team Professor podcast. My name is Scott, and in this episode, we're looking at the top players to target in Game Week 33 Sun Dream Team. Now, as always, we're going to start off with the fixture ticker from ffstuff.co.uk, and we have just 5 game weeks left from now until the end of the season. 33, 34, 35, 36, and then finishing it up with the FA Cup final in Game Week 37. And then also we have the Europa League conference final if Aston Villa get there. So not long at all left till the end of the season. The Game Week 33 deadline, Saturday the 27th of April at 11:30 a.m. Sorry we couldn't do a Dream Team deadline stream this weekend, but we will definitely be having one. Last weekend, but we'll definitely be having one this weekend. So 10:30, join myself, Ben and Tony from the Dream Team Tonic podcast, and we'll be doing a deadline stream ahead of the West Ham Liverpool match, the early kickoff at 12:30. So do join us for that one. Game week 33, we have a double game week for just Aston Villa, Chelsea and Tottenham Hotspur. So Aston Villa play Chelsea at home, Olympiacos at home in the Europa League Conference. Chelsea play Aston Villa away, Tottenham away, and Tottenham have Arsenal at home, North London derby, and Chelsea away from home. So 2 London derbies in a double game week for Spurs. So that's the Game Week 33 doublers. Not that much to choose from compared to what we've had recently. Single game weeks, we've got Manchester City away at Forest. United have Burnley at home. Arsenal, obviously North London derby against Spurs. Liverpool in that early kickoff against West Ham away from home. Newcastle home to Sheffield United, and then Crystal Palace. I'm going to throw these into the mix because of their good form. They have Fulham away from home. They're the singles that I like the look of. There are a few others out there, but from now to the end of the season, I think we're going to want to try and focus on the teams that have got extra fixtures or double game weeks thrown in. So they're the singles I like for this week, but ideally you want to go for the teams that have got double game weeks or extra fixtures. So I've highlighted them in this slide. So teams that have future double game weeks. Villa have back-to-back doubles. So obviously both legs of the Europa League conference games. So that's obviously Chelsea home and then Olympiacos home this week. Followed by Brighton away and then Olympiacos away in 34. So the only team now to have a double game week in 34 will be Aston Villa. So they will be popular in this episode and in these next 2 game weeks. Game week 33, I said obviously Chelsea and Spurs will be thrown in the mix, but both teams not in the best of form really. Limited options. So I think this is going to be a pretty tricky game week. Game week 34, like I said, just Aston Villa. But then game week 35, we've got a big double game week. So Manchester City, United, Newcastle, Chelsea, Brighton and Spurs have double game weeks in game week 35. So you would have noticed there that obviously Chelsea double again and Spurs double again. So if you do decide to go for a Tottenham player or a Chelsea player, they've got more use than just this double game week. They do have a future double game week coming up. So quite handy if you do decide to go for one of them. From now to the end of the season, you've got teams with 6 fixtures, which are City, United, Aston Villa. Aston Villa 6 could become 7 if they get to the final. You've got Chelsea on 6 and Spurs on 6. So if you do go for players from these teams, you are going to have the advantage of extra fixtures. Newcastle and Brighton both have 5 fixtures, so they both double in game week 35. One thing that's quite interesting about Newcastle, they do have some nice single game weeks. So Newcastle have Sheffield United at home this week and then Burnley away from home in game week 34. So you could still get on them early, benefit from that double game week and have the nice singles. All other teams have 4 fixtures. That includes my team, Arsenal, still challenging for the title currently. This episode's being filmed before the Man City Brighton game, so Thursday before the Man City Brighton game. So don't know how that one's going to turn out yet, but hoping they can do us a favour. So my team, Arsenal, 4 fixtures. Liverpool, damaging result yesterday, loss against Everton. Looked like they could potentially be out of the title race, or at least have had a big hit. They have just the 4 fixtures now as well. So both Arsenal and Liverpool, no double game weeks. Other teams with 4, West Ham obviously dropped out of Europe as well. I don't really think that, unless you're missing someone with really, really high ownership, like a Saka, like a Salah, and that scares you, I really don't see the appeal of going for single game week teams now, or at least a team with 4. Might make an exception for Newcastle with 5. It's just my opinion. Obviously, there will be players scoring good points with 4 fixtures, but I still think you want to try and maximise it. So talking of maximising the fixtures, Aston Villa will kick off with them back-to-back double game weeks. Chelsea Olympiacos, Brighton Olympiacos, then a single in game week 35. So when there's a big double game week going on, they do just have a single, and it is Liverpool at home. So not the best fixture. And in game week 36, they're away at Crystal Palace, which is also proving to be quite a difficult fixture. But by that point, we will know if they are through to the Europa League conference final. So if they are, I doubt we're going to want to take out an Ollie Watkins, knowing that he could have that extra fixture in 37 if we do go there. So 6 fixtures equals most fixtures from any other team. If they make the final, it will become 7. Olympiacos conceded 3 across 2 legs against Fenerbahce, so could look good for Ollie Watkins or a midfielder if you like the look of them. I'm not so keen, but we're going to mention them in this slide. And then they've still got it all to play for as well. One thing to notice with teams at this, or to take note of at this stage of the season, is do teams still have stuff to play for? Are they on the beach? Aston Villa doing really well in that battle for top 4, and they still have this European trophy to go for. So I think Aston Villa, really good team to target still. We'll start with Ollie Watkins. It's the obvious one, and I think that everyone's going to bring him in this week. With this double game week, both at home, his great form, it feels a no-brainer this week to get Ollie Watkins in. Last 3 game weeks, he has 43 points, which makes him the second highest striker behind Jean-Philippe Mateta, who's had a crazy week. I've done the last 3 game weeks. I usually do longer, but Ollie Watkins had a week where he was injured. I would normally do the last 4 game weeks. So, yeah, last 3 game weeks, second highest striker, 4th highest scoring player in the game as well since he's come back from that injury. He's got 4 goals, 2 assists in his last 5 matches. So Ollie Watkins, absolutely smashing it. He's got the fixtures and he's got the form. 6.5 average, 23 goals, 17 assists. That puts him 1 goal behind Palmer and Haaland for the race for the Golden Boot. So we might expect to see him being a bit more greedy than usual, maybe a few less assists and a few more goals for himself. I even started to wonder, actually, he's not on pens, Douglas Luiz is on pens. Would Douglas Luiz be nice enough to donate some penalties to Ollie Watkins if it meant him getting the Golden Boot? I think he should. The main question mark, I think, with Ollie Watkins this week is not going to be, are you bringing him in? I think everyone will be. It is, will you be captaining him? I think this game week, the captaincy is going to be split closely between him and Cole Palmer. If I quickly flick back to the fixture ticker, obviously Ollie Watkins, Chelsea at home, Olympiacos at home. The other double game week player that stands out would be Cole Palmer. He's done really well recently. We'll come on to him later. But Aston Villa away, Tottenham at home. And then maybe, just maybe, Son could be thrown into the mix if you did decide to go for him. Arsenal at home, Chelsea away from home. I think Son definitely will be the least popular out of those 3. But Palmer and Watkins, I think it's going to be a shootout between those 2 for the most highly owned captain. So let us know in the comments below who you're thinking for the captaincy this game week. Douglas Luiz in second. So I'm not so keen on these Aston Villa midfielders. I know a lot of people are pushing it because of the extra fixtures. I saw Dream Team put an article out highlighting the Aston Villa midfielders. I'm not really feeling it myself. So Douglas Luiz, second highest scoring player from Villa with 9 goals, 10 assists. He's on set pieces, he's on penalties, and he's got a 5-point average, which is good. It is decent. But the problem I have is you have to, at this stage of the season, drop a very good player to make way for him. And I'm not overly convinced that I prefer a Douglas Luiz in 2 fixtures versus a Saka in 1 fixture, a Foden, a De Bruyne. You're not dropping Palmer. I feel like it starts to get a bit difficult which player you drop. Unless it's a defender, maybe. I can maybe understand that. But if you're at 3 at the back already and you've got a lot of midfielders or strikers, I feel like it's risky to drop a decent single game week player for a Douglas Luiz. If he gets a penalty, it's great. But his last recent scores have been 3, 2, 1, 2, 4 and 2. Which is pretty underwhelming. A 3 and a 2, 5. A 1 and a 2, 3. In double game weeks, it still isn't looking great. His last good score was in game week 28, where he got 2 assists and 8 points against Ajax. Does have 31 bonus points, but just I'm not convinced by that pick at all. Leon Bailey, I feel like he would be a better pick than Douglas Luiz. He's been much better form recently, 4.7 average. He's actually got 7 average over the last 3 matches. 12 goals, 15 assists for the season, which is very impressive. If I was going for a midfielder that doubled, it would be him over Douglas Luiz, certainly. He was benched in 2 matches out of the last 6, and he's had no full 90 minutes. Great for attacking involvement, though. Shots on target in each of his last 4 matches. He's got 5 attacking returns in his last 5. So, like I said, if you were going to do it, this could be the upside one. But again, do I want to take a Foden out, or Saka out, a Salah for Leon Bailey? It just doesn't quite feel right to me. Maybe if you're chasing, maybe if you want to be a bit differential, this could be a pick for you. But it doesn't feel like the pick for me. Let us know what you think of the midfielders at Aston Villa. The standout guy that I'd go for at the back from Aston Villa would be Ezri Konsa. Ran out of space on my slide, so going to have to bring this up and freestyle him. But Konsa, 3.4 million. Game week points this week, 6 and a 4.5 average. 187 points total, but he's on 52 bonus points for the season, which is massive. Out of all the defenders, that is the highest. 52. Second is Anthony Robinson. Out of all the players in the game for bonus points, that puts him in 4th, just behind Pascal Gross, who's playing this evening. So could fall a bit further behind, but really, really decent for bonus. Plays centre-back, plays right-back, and plays every game. So you will get the double game week out of Konsa. I was having a little look as well, because I was interested in maybe Trent. But then Trent versus Konsa, if you do end up getting the 6 or 7 fixtures out of Konsa, and he does stick to that 4.5 average, you would outscore a Trent Alexander-Arnold who has a 6.1 average. So 6.1 for 4 fixtures for Trent versus a 4.5 for 6 or 7 fixtures for Konsa. You would come out on top if you had Konsa. But obviously it's not an exact science, but that's the way I sort of like to have a little look at times. So Konsa, definitely a very good pick for this game week in the double game week. And you get back-to-back doubles as well, which is a bonus. So I'm much more excited about going for Konsa than a Bailey or a Douglas Luiz, in my opinion. I think Konsa will be very popular this week. On to Chelsea. So Chelsea do have the double game week as well. 6 fixtures for them. It's a guaranteed 6 fixtures. There can't be any extra. Now they had that loss to Manchester City in the Cup. I actually didn't think that was too bad of a loss, to be fair. Did put in an okay performance. But the 5-0 battering against Arsenal was not so good. They were without Cole Palmer in that match. So maybe we can give them a bit of a let off. They are one of 3 doublers in game week 33. Like I said, Spurs, Villa, and then a double again in game week 35. So again, if you did go for a Chelsea player, they are better, or they're okay for the longer term. You are going to get 6 fixtures out of them. The problem is, outside of Cole Palmer, who really is there? So you've got Gusto, who's been okay. He has been out, and he is due to miss Aston Villa, from what I've seen today, with a knee injury. seen back in training, but apparently just training on his own at the minute. Cole Palmer missed Arsenal with illness. Got 8 points in that City game, which was really, really impressive, to be honest, considering they lost 1-0. But he is back in training now, so expect him to be fine for the double game week. The biggest question, again, like Ollie Watkins, is do we captain him? I've got his graphic on the screen from ffstaff.co.uk, and that gives me confidence with captaining him. So 10-pointer, 12, 11, 18, 26. So a run of 5 matches where he's cleared double figures. He then had that 5-pointer, which silly me took him out after that, just ahead of his 4 goals and 30 points against Everton. So that is captain potential right there. I will be considering captaining Cole Palmer. Currently, I think I prefer captaining Cole Palmer over Ollie Watkins. I think it's just the penalties that sway it for me. With Ollie Watkins, obviously loads of goals, loads of assists. Most of the points are coming from them, or they're coming from the shots on target. Whereas with Cole Palmer, like we saw in that match against Manchester City, even when they lose 1-0, he comes away with 8 points, bonus, shots on target, big chances created, and 4 tackles. He can score points in a load of different ways. So I think I'm leaning towards Cole Palmer as my captain over Watkins. Let me know again who you're thinking. Again, like Watkins, up for the Golden Boot. So currently tied with Erling Haaland, a little bit ahead of Ollie Watkins. So I'm expecting to start to see these players like Watkins and Cole Palmer get a little bit greedier. Outside of Palmer, like I said, I'm not particularly comfortable with these options. Nicholas Jackson with a 5.3 average, which looks okay. Last 3 average, 7.7. Looks okay. 13 goals, 6 assists for the season. Not bad. But then you watch him, and he just misses chance after chance after chance. He gets a lot of chances, misses a lot of chances. A bit like Darwin Núñez. Very, very frustrating. But he did score a hat-trick last time he played against Spurs, and he'll be playing against Spurs again in this double game week. The only problem is Spurs went down to 9 men in that last game, so I don't think we can really rely on that happening. But 21 points in the last run out against Spurs. It would be a massive differential if you went there, but it is high risk. Conor Gallagher feels like a boring pick, but he is a consistent point scorer. Hit bonus in 5 consecutive matches, and he's got 46 bonus points in total for the season. His recent scores 5, 6, 7, 6 and 10 from his last 5 appearances, getting 2 assists in that time, but most of it comes from bonus and tackles. 5 goals, 10 assists for the season. Won't be going there with Conor Gallagher, won't be going there with Nicholas Jackson, but it's just boring to just pick out Palmer every time for Chelsea. On to Tottenham. 2-week rest since their 4-0 loss against Newcastle. They have 6 fixtures from now to the end of the season. So joint most fixtures apart from Villa if they get through to that final. And they have 2 double game weeks. So game week 33, Arsenal at home, Chelsea away. They then face Liverpool away from home in game week 34. So the next 3 fixtures do look pretty tough on paper. Game week 35 is that double game week of Burnley at home and City at home. Obviously, Burnley at home is one that looks quite good to target. City at home, first glance, not so good, but Spurs always do cause problems against Manchester City. And then 36, Sheffield United away from home looks like a good fixture. So, bit of a mixed bag, but I don't hate it. Son is my favourite option. A pretty obvious one. Could be a really good differential for this game week. In what looks like a pretty template game week as well. Ollie Watkins, everyone's going to have him. Palmer, everyone's going to have him. Ezri Konsa is probably going to be really, really popular. I don't think those Villa midfielders are going to be hugely popular, but I don't know how many people will be bringing in Son. So I think Son could be a differential. And if I was going to go for a differential captain, he would be the guy that I went for. Obviously, Watkins and Palmer I've already mentioned. But Son, he has got pedigree. He has been off the boil though, and I've got his scores up from recent fixtures. And I feel like the standout difference between this and Watkins or Palmer is while he can hit double figures, he's got it in him to blank as well. So obviously the last 3, 1 point against Newcastle, 5 points against Forest, which is not bad, but 3 points against West Ham. He then has a 10-pointer, a 4-pointer, a 16-pointer against Villa, and then a 10-pointer against Palace. So he has got the hauls in him, but you could very well end up with a 3-pointer and a 4-pointer, whereas Palmer and Watkins do seem to be a bit more consistent. It feels like it's either haul or blank, and there's not much in between. The consideration I would have if I was looking to pick Son is who I would take out for him. Obviously, if Haaland ends up being injured, maybe a lot of people would move Haaland to Watkins, but who would you move out for your second slot if you did want to bring in a Son? And it would be, for me, it would be like a Salah or a Saka, which doesn't feel great. Both are 90+% owned, but both only have 4 fixtures, single game weeks the whole way through. So do you think a Son with Arsenal and Chelsea could beat Saka in one fixture or Salah in one fixture? That's going to be a tough decision, and it could backfire, but I don't hate it. The only thing that does bug me a little bit is I listen to a lot of other podcasts, and I was listening to Planet FPL earlier. They do a Clash of the Correspondents podcast, and there's 2 Spurs fans talking about Spurs and about Son, and yeah, they weren't feeling too confident. They haven't been impressed with Son's form recently, and the points do sort of reflect that. So you are picking a player sort of out of form, and you are going to be going against some players that are in fairly decent form, or in at least better form. So yeah, I don't mind it. It's a differential, but it does come with a risk. James Maddison, average 6.4 points per game, 37 bonus, 4 goals, 9 assists. But again, he scored 3 points in each of his last 3 matches. So out of form. His last decent return was 6 games ago. He's got bonus 4 matches in a row, but it just needs an attacking return in there for me to consider picking him. And am I confident that he gets that attacking return? Not particularly. Pedro Porro, if I was going to go for a defender, it would be him. I'm not 100% certain that he's even fit. He went off injured in the last game. He is expected to be back, but I think there's risk there. Does take some corners, does take some set pieces. I'm just unsure he's fully fit. I think there's better options. In this scenario, I would definitely go Konsa over a Pedro Porro. If you've enjoyed the video so far, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. If you're listening on podcast platforms, do leave us a review on there as well. And head over to the Dream Team Tonic podcast and check out our latest episode over there. If you give them a follow, hit the notification bell, you'll get notified when we go live on our Saturday deadline stream as well. On to Manchester City. Like I said, I'm recording this episode before their Brighton match, so anything could happen in that one. It might make this a little bit out of date if there's any injuries or anything. But 6 remaining fixtures after the Brighton games happened. They had the unconvincing win against Chelsea. Wasn't great. But they do have a very nice fixture run. So Forest away from home. Wolves at home in 34. So 2 singles that look pretty good. Game week 35, it's an away double. Fulham and Spurs. Again, I think that's okay. Fulham are decent away from home and Spurs do cause them trouble. But I can't see where City drop points here, unfortunately. Game week 36, single against West Ham at home. And then game week 37, Man United in the FA Cup final. So 6 fixtures for City. City players still on the table. What I would say, though, about City players is I think at this point of the season, they're out of Europe now. You want to go for the ones that are as nailed as they can be at City. So the first question mark is, what do we do with Haaland? Currently out injured, missed both games this game week. The talk sounds like it isn't serious, But I don't want to risk holding on to a Haaland unless I know that he's fit. We've already missed one game week with no points out of him. And he's missed quite a lot of football so far this season. So I feel like I don't want to be risking keeping him in just for a single game week as well. I think it's a bit different if there was maybe, if we were in game week 35 and he might be back. If you get it wrong and you miss 2 fixtures for Haaland, it could be terrible. But maybe just the one fixture, if it does go wrong, might not be as bad. So obviously, if we hear he's back, I want him. But currently, I'm thinking of moving him out. Phil Foden, apparently back, available for this Brighton match, but he disappointed with 2 points against Chelsea. He blanked against Real Madrid last week, and he did not play against Luton. So it hasn't been the best time for Phil Foden. But he's got plenty of credit in the bank with me. He's been so good this season. So I plan to keep Phil Foden. Obviously, if anything changes tonight, we'll see. But currently, no problem holding him. Kevin De Bruyne also, plan to keep him. They're out of Europe. Rotation was a problem with Kevin De Bruyne. But I think now the title is the main goal. Obviously, you've got that FA Cup final at the end of 37. But it's mostly single game weeks now. I expect that Kevin De Bruyne is probably going to play all of these fixtures. Maybe gets one rest. But big game Kev in the key part of the season. I think I'll be keeping Kevin De Bruyne as well with these extra fixtures. I expect him to play the bulk of them. Plenty of recovery time. So 20 returns in his last 18 games, or his only 18 games of the season. He's someone I'm going to want to keep in as well. But when it comes to, if you wanted to add an extra sort of City midfielder to the mix, I think the only person I'd be willing to look at now would be Bernardo Silva. And the reason is, Doku's been alright, but there's obviously competition. I think at this time of the season, when it's fully on the title race, I feel like Bernardo is one of them big names that plays the big games. So 3 benchings in his last 10. But when you look, he has played in all of the big ones. He plays in the Champions League ones and the top sort of matches. So I think Bernardo Silva would be the guy I went to if I went for a midfielder outside of Foden and De Bruyne. Obviously, you've got Rodri who plays them all as well, but I think Bernardo's got a bit of more attacking upside. Over the last 4 weeks, he's actually 6 points behind Foden for points and 10 points behind KDB, so not far behind at all. But then Rodri is only 1 point behind Bernardo, so not that much between them two. Defence. This is harder. Vardiol, I feel like, is probably the best option for attacking upside, but he has only got 2 goals and 2 assists. It's not anything massive, and it's probably a bit of recency bias because he's got those attacking returns in the last few games. If I went for the safest option for starts, I'd have to probably say Kyle Walker at this point of the season. They have got Rico Lewis, but I don't know how much they're going to mess about rotating now with these single game weeks. Obviously, Lewis was coming in sort of between the Champions League matches. At centre-back, there's just a little bit too much choice for me. Maybe Diaz. But, yeah, I feel Stones has just come back from injury. Akanji does play a lot of games, but he sort of fills in for people when they're missing. For me, it would probably be Vardiol or Kyle Walker. I do think Ederson would be the guy that I'd go for if I was looking to switch my keeper this game week. I know he's going to not play in that FA Cup match. But he is still probably going to play the bulk of these games. Forest, Wolves, Fulham, Tottenham, West Ham. I guess the only problem would be is if the Premier League does get wrapped up early for any reason. If Ortega's going to play the FA Cup final, they might end up just giving the West Ham match to Ortega as like a warm-up match. So that is a potential problem. But I think that Ederson would be the guy that I still swapped him for. My team, up next, Arsenal. So back-to-back clean sheets. It's been a really, really good game week. 2-0 win against Wolves and a 5-0 win against Chelsea. I would say, I feel like where you've been a little bit fortunate, you can obviously only beat what's in front of you. But that Wolves team was kind of down to the bare bones. And then we've played Chelsea as well without Cole Palmer. So I feel like we've been very, very fortunate in that regard. But I'm going to take that all day long. Only 4 fixtures remain for Arsenal. So Tottenham away in a single. Game week 34, Bournemouth at home. Game week 35, Man U away. And then game week 36, Everton at home. So single game weeks only. And a couple tough games in there. Spurs are going to give us a tough game. Man United away from home will be a tough one. Bournemouth would be the one that scared me if I... Bournemouth at home would be the game that scared me if I was taking out Arsenal players. I think that looks like a good fixture on paper. Everton at home, game week 36. Depending where the title is and depending on where the relegation battle is, I mean, that could end up being a difficult game. We've just seen what Everton have done to Liverpool. So, still at this point in the season, no easy fixtures. Saka, 13 points this game week without being remarkable. This is the thing about Bukayo Saka. Even when he doesn't smash it, still does okay for points. A bit unlike how I said with Son. If Son can blank or haul, Saka sort of hauls or does okay to 7 points, 6 points. He did have the 3-pointer against Bayern and the 4-pointer against Aston Villa. But then the scores have been pretty consistently good. 90% owned in the top 1K. 18 goals, 15 assists for the season. Hit bonus in both, got 1 assist. Second highest scoring player in the game. 90% owned in the top 1K. Now, I'm not sure whether or not I feel like this could dip with just the single game weeks now. I was looking through the fixtures and I can't see myself captaining him for any of these fixtures. And that's the thing with these teams that have got 4 fixtures now. Game week 33, we've said, is a double game week for Villa, Spurs, Chelsea. So you're going to captain a double game week player. So if you did go without Saka, you're only really at risk of the 1 fixture. And I don't feel like many people are going to captain him. Game week 34, Aston Villa double again. It's probably going to be Ollie Watkins. So you're probably not too much at risk. If you took him out, you'd lose the points for the single. But it's kind of not double whammy with the captaincy. And then game week 35, a double game week. Arsenal just have the single against Man United. I can't see a situation where people are going to captain a single game week player with these double game week options. And then game week 36 is a single game week for everyone. So maybe Everton, potentially. Arsenal do pretty well on the last game of the season. But that's all I would say. If you were looking maybe or thinking about taking out Saka, I feel like it isn't as big of a risk as it would be in a double game week. And you're definitely not going to have people captaining him, I don't think. So you could go away from it. The only thing I'd say with this Spurs fixture that's bugging me is that Udogie is out for Spurs at left back, which means it could be like a Davies playing left back. And then if I think about Saka versus Davies, it could be a decent one. It could be a max bonus dribbling past him. You never know. But maybe they play an Emerson Royale or something like that. But yeah, it's not ideal. Odegaard, 50 points in the last 4 game weeks has been really, really good. 20 points this game week. Incredible against Chelsea. Really, really good form. Again, just a single. So do you really want to bring in a single game week player with just 4 fixtures? But I feel like we should shout him out because he's done pretty well for people that brought him in. 11 goals, 11 assists. And likewise with Kai Havertz, 49 points across the last 4 game weeks. 20 points for this game week and a brace against Chelsea. Really, really nice to see someone celebrating against their old club. 12 goals, 7 assists for him. Odegaard, Havertz, I don't see people bringing them in at this point of the season now. Defence. Now this is one that's causing me trouble. So back-to-back clean sheets this game week. If you follow along, I've already got 3. I've got Raya, I've got Gabriel, and I've got Ben White. Absolutely smashed it this game week. 20 clean sheets for the season. And if you're looking at the fixture ticker, you can probably say, you can never predict when they come, but out of these 4 fixtures, if you had to guess, Bournemouth and Everton, both at home, could be the clean sheet potential fixtures. I think 2 clean sheets out of 4 isn't unreasonable as a guess. Do you just stick with your Arsenal defenders now with such good defence, or do you chase the fixtures? I'm inclined to think that I would just potentially just stick with my Arsenal defence from now to the end of the season. Maybe sacrifice a couple of fixtures to have that good defence, and then try and capitalise on the positions where there's more of a higher upside. That's how I'm feeling about it at the minute. White's got 27 points this game week for 2 goals, which were fantastic. I just love Ben White. 4 goals, 6 assists for the season. Now, he is the highest scoring defender in the game. You've got Gabriel there, second highest scoring defender in the game. He's on 3 goals and 1 assist for attacking returns. And then Saliba makes it 3. The top 3 defenders in the game are at Arsenal. I feel like you would go White or Gabriel. You wouldn't go Saliba over him. And then you've got Raya, 18 clean sheets. So Arsenal got 20. Raya kept 18 of those. He has the most clean sheets. The next best keeper for clean sheets is Emi Martinez, who's got 13. So real big jump in clean sheets. But Raya is still 4 points off Onana for the highest scoring goalkeeper. I've got Raya. I'll keep him now. I just don't think there's that many points to be gained swapping your keepers about. And when it comes to defence, I feel like there's more of a priority to move on your Liverpool defenders than your Arsenal. If both have got 4, you'd have to say Arsenal are looking like the better defence. On to Newcastle next. So they have 5 fixtures, so they do have an extra fixture over those guys that have 4. It's just the one double game week in game week 35. But like I mentioned earlier, they have decent single game weeks. So Sheffield United in game week 33 and Burnley away from home in game week 34 both look like decent fixtures to me. And in game week 35, Brighton at home. Brighton haven't been the best. And then Man United away. Man United at the back have been poor. So if you were looking to go for someone like an Alexander Isak, I still think that he could be a decent differential. They had that 2-0 loss against Palace, but Palace have been brilliant. And Newcastle, their away form hasn't been the best. But they're unbeaten in their last 6 home matches with 3 wins. The Sheffield United home fixture could be a really good single to target. Isak, second highest scoring striker in the last 4 game weeks. 5 goals, 1 assist in his last 5. He's on 18 Premier League goals, so just 2 off the top spot. He's got 2 great singles here, so I do see a lot of goals coming their way. Wilson is back, but I just think that Isak's in such good form. I don't think we really need to worry. 21 goals, 2 assists, and a 6.3 average. Gordon, he's only blanked once this season at home in the Premier League. 11 goals, 14 assists, 5 points in that 2-0 loss against Crystal Palace for 7 tackles, which is pretty mad. But I just can't see who I would take out of my midfield for Gordon at the minute. So I think he could be a decent option, a decent differential if you needed something like that in your mini leagues. But I still think there's better options out there. Defensively, they had kept back-to-back clean sheets before Palace. Sheffield United and Burnley singles do look good, but I do think I'd go for a Konsa before I went for a Newcastle defender. Fabian Schär would probably be the one that I went for if I did go there. 5 goals, 3 assists for the season. On to Liverpool. And that was a real shock loss for Liverpool yesterday against Everton. Only 4 fixtures remain for them. West Ham away, Tottenham home, Villa away and Wolves at home. That loss against Everton really has dented their title chance. The West Ham single does look okay. It's an early kickoff away from home. Just how will that Everton loss affect both morale and rotation? We've seen a lot of rotation. Salah was rested for the Fulham game, which was annoying. And obviously Darwin Núñez has missed a couple as well. Trent surprised me. So Trent got 2 starts. I didn't expect him to start 2 matches. He would be one of the guys that I'd target if I wanted to go for Liverpool. The only thing I would say, it surprised me that he got 2 starts. Maybe he just starts every game from now to the end of the season. But if there was one that would spook me now, it would be the early kickoff against West Ham. But then after that, it should just be singles, and I would expect him to start every single one. 3 bonus and 4 points against Everton, 9 points for a ridiculously good free kick against Fulham. So if you did bring him back in for your part of the bus, or you just brought him in back anyway, I did think there was a really good week for Trent. And I would potentially consider, like I've got Virgil van Dijk, I would consider just going Virgil to Trent. I've got the budget to do it, and he's that much better. Salah, it's been a disappointing game week, so 6 points in total. 1 point against Fulham off the bench and 5 points against Everton. 32% of the top 1k captained him. I was tempted once we heard Haaland was out. For me, it was between Haaland and Bruno. But then once Haaland was out, I can understand why people went for Salah. But you would have been gutted with that benching against Fulham. Crazy. 1 shot on target across the 2 games, and he's 99.7% owned in the top 1k. So everyone's got him, but I think that will drop. I think that ownership will drop. I think people will start taking a few more chances now without these double game weeks for him. And I think he's got okay fixtures. I just don't know whether game week 33 is the week to take him out. Away to West Ham, who have been conceding a lot of goals. It's just how will they respond. 33, 34 and 35. Again, like Saka, there will be other teams doubling. So can you see yourself captaining Salah in a single when there's teams that have a double? And then for that reason, I know he's 99.7% owned, but I still think you could go against him. I'm not saying that I will, but the same way with Saka, I feel like you could possibly go against them having these singles and not having them as a captaincy option. Maybe 36 against Wolves, again, could be one that you captain him in. If you think he's leaving, it could be his big send-off, it could be a hat-trick, but yeah, currently, I was looking at the fixtures, I don't see a game that I'm going to be captaining Salah from now to the end of the season. And now with the rest of the extra fixtures gone for Liverpool, I think that makes most of the other Liverpool players not appealing now. Defensively, leaking goals. For the defender, must have an upside, so it would be Robertson or Trent for me. Attackers, Diaz, Nunez don't appeal with less fixtures, especially having singles now. You could end up having your player just benched for a single, which would be frustrating. And then Diaz and Nunez, no attacking returns in each of their last 5 now. So gone a little bit off the boil. Manchester United, just one standout player at the minute for me, and that was Bruno Fernandes. They have 6 fixtures remaining from now to the end of the season. That includes the FA Cup final in game week 37. They made it there, but they made it hard work with that 3-3 against Coventry. So double game week in 35 of Arsenal and Newcastle, which gives them the extra games. And in game week 33, so single this weekend against Burnley at home, which looks decent. Crystal Palace away in 34. The form that Palace are in, I don't think it looks like a great fixture. The double game week I mentioned, and then 36 is Brighton, 37 is City. Now, I think for a Bruno Fernandes, these fixtures are fine. Burnley, Crystal Palace certainly look okay. Arsenal at home, Newcastle at home, Brighton away, City away. They do look tough, but Bruno has been really, really good. 54% capped in the top 1k, which included myself. And he really did deliver with 21 points against Sheffield United and 13 points against Coventry. So Bruno Fernandes with 34 points for the game week and obviously 54% captained him. So really good if you went there. 87% his ownership jumped up to. Highest scoring player in game week 32. So captainers hit the nail on the head with that one. Goal and assist against Coventry with tackle points, bonus points, and then 2 goals, 1 assist against Sheffield United. 3 shots on target, 2 big chances created, bonus points and tackles. I think personally I'm going to be holding Bruno now till the end of the season, barring any injuries, suspensions. Defensively though, I know Maguire and Dalot done pretty well for people this week, especially part of the bus. Dalot got 10 points, so doubled. And then Maguire, 19 points, back-to-back goals. Good old slabhead. Both good for attacking returns and done well this week, but I wouldn't be keeping them. They've been conceding 2.6 goals per game over their last 5. Maybe Burnley and Crystal Palace look okay, but Arsenal, Newcastle, Brighton, City, I expect them all to score against Man United at the minute. So it's not terrible if you have to hold your Maguire or your Dalot for a Burnley single or a Crystal Palace single, but I'd be looking to get rid. Right, on to my team update then for game week 32. Obviously, like I said, City have not played their Brighton match yet, so hopefully some more points coming my way. Currently on the leaderboard, I'm up to 147th, which is a jump of about 100 places on last week. So been a really decent game week, 161 points for me. Bruno and Palmer came in for Kudus and Darwin, which is probably one of my more successful transfer pairings of the season, and I gave the armband to Bruno, who got me 68 points. So Bruno and my Arsenal defence were pretty much the guys that smashed it. 15 points for David Raya, back-to-back clean sheets, 16 points for Gabriel, and then an amazing 27 points for Ben White with those 2 goals and the clean sheet points. 3 points for Virgil van Dijk was disappointing. He's someone that I'll probably be looking at potentially to move on. Saka with 13, like I said, when he's not great, he's still scoring okay. Foden, 2 points. It's been a bit disappointing, but like I said, he's got credit in the bank for me. He's done so well this season. I'm not going to just let that 2 points really sway anything for me. Cole Palmer, 8 points. He is flagged, but I think he's going to be fine for next week. De Bruyne, 3 points. But like I said, I think with these single game weeks coming up and focusing on the league, I think he's probably going to be a hold for the rest of the season. And then Bruno Fernandes as well. I think I'm happy to hold him. Haaland, though, that's another story. So missing from both games this week, it seems. And I don't know whether he's going to be back or not. And I don't think I want to wait around to find out. If we don't get any information that he's definitely back, I think I'll be moving him on, probably for Watkins. And then Salah, 6 points. I expected more this week. It's not the worst return, but you expect a lot more from Mohamed Salah in a double game week. So my initial thoughts for this game week, unless anything crazy happens with maybe Haaland coming back or any injuries tonight, I think Watkins 100% has to come back in, and I'll likely move Haaland out, I think, unless we hear something. So Haaland to Watkins seems the pretty straightforward move. But then the second one, I think Virgil van Dijk is probably most at risk from my defence. He's not keeping clean sheets, and the Arsenal guys are smashing it. All of them have got 4 fixtures at the back there, so VVD is the weakest link. But do I say goodbye to him for Konsa? Or maybe Trent? It would be 4 fixtures for Trent versus 6 or 7 for Konsa. So the fixture play does seem to be Konsa. It just feels a little bit boring. I think it will be popular, but it feels boring. Villa, Chelsea, Spurs are the doublers this week. Like I said, I'm not interested in Villa mids one bit, so they won't be coming in. The person that, I mean, if I go boring, which I've got in me, it probably would be Konsa for Virgil and Haaland for Watkins. Bosh, extra fixtures for the next 2 weeks. But Son does interest me. 2 future doubles in 33 and 35. Does have a decent record scoring against big sides. Scored a couple against Arsenal. I think he's scored against City. Scored against some big teams this season. But then it just gives me the problem of who do I take out? Foden, Palmer, De Bruyne, Fernandes. I've said and they're not coming out. They've got extra games. So it'd be Saka or Salah. And they're both like 90% plus ownership, even more on Salah. So it would be a risky play. But it would be 6 fixtures for Son versus 4 fixtures for Salah and Saka. And like I said, I don't see people captaining Salah or captaining Saka in the near future. So if it does go wrong, it might not go horrifically wrong, unless it's a brace or a hat trick or a real haul in a single. I feel like it could be maybe a calculated risk. The downside is Son hasn't been in the best of form himself. So you are hoping that he turns it on in these doubles. This is what my sort of two ideas could look like. So on the left, the more boring looking team could be Virgil van Dijk to Konsa for those two doubles, and then you just leave Konsa for the next 2 game weeks at least. 4 fixtures versus 2 for Virgil van Dijk. And then Haaland, I'd change to Watkins if Haaland's out. If Haaland's available, then I'm going to have that same issue of it probably will have to be Saka or Salah. I won't go without Watkins. So that will give me something extra to think about. We will have our deadline stream, so join us on that. You'll find out what we do decide to do. The more exciting, spicy looking draft would be the one where maybe I take out a Salah or Saka. For this instance, I've taken out Saka just for the sake of the picture. Would mean keeping Virgil van Dijk though, which I don't think away at West Ham is terrible. I don't think he's going to get a rest. It would give me my Arsenal defence and Virgil van Dijk, so they'll all be playing just the one fixture, and they're not the best fixtures. But that does look like a nice front line. Foden, Palmer, De Bruyne, Bruno, Watkins, Salah, Son. It would give me that little bit of a differential if I am trying to climb rank. But I'm in a weird position now where this is the highest rank. I'm on track for my highest ever finish. My highest ever finish was 350. I'm at 147 currently. But it's like, do you maintain or do you attack it? I'd like to think that there's, you want to go as high as you can sort of thing. But at the same time, I'd be quite content to probably just finish where I am, to be honest. So it is a hard one. I'm not fully decided. Like I said, join us on the deadline stream with the Dream Team Tonic podcast, and we'll share all the team news that we find out. We'll talk through our teams, and we'll be answering your Dream Team questions. So that is everything for this episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and hopefully see you on Saturday. Goodbye.